the end user of all of these things is not innocent in this game. You know, the supply and demand chain is going to the east, but the previous, if we put it into context, the previous attack or assault or whatever you want to call it on the rhinos globally, the biggest end user was actually the Yemenis. If we have to go back, I don't know if you remember as far back as Operation Baikonus in Namibia. That's how old I am. Etc. When the rhinos were pushed to the brink of extinction, the end user in Yemen was using them for dagger handles. There's a rite of passage for adulthood. The young boys got a dagger with a rhino horn handle, and of course the Chinese traditional medicine was still a big thing. WWF bought a reprieve for the rhinos by convincing the Chinese Traditional Medicine Council to utilize the horns of the Saiga antelope that lives on the Mongolian steppes, which is Russian Chinese territory. There were about 2.5 million Saiga antelope on the landscape, and one of my favorite quotes, I think it was in the New Science magazine. I can't remember right now, but anyway, one of the most famous quotes for any ecologist or biologist is where they said it's the fastest extinction of a land mammal in the history of the world. 2.5 Saiga antelope, because you cannot meet the demand. And this is my argument against legalizing trade or 3D printing of horns and what have you. You're perpetuating them on. And that is a user group, the end user, that is in the highest income bracket. If you put it on a little pyramid. So let's say 1% of the Chinese community and the Vietnamese community can actually afford rhino horn at that quantity. And so there's no ways that we can hope to it's a big population of people. And they're not just living in China, they're scattered all over the globe, Imagine if we made it attainable to the rest of the population, or even just one notch down. So let's say even 2% can now afford it because we've opened up trade and we're allowing 3D horns to move onto the market or whatever it might be. Can you just imagine if 2% of that massive 1 point whatever billion population strong could now afford rhino horn? We would never be sitting and having this discussion. We would be lamenting about the extinction of the rhino. Rhinos are not only here in South Africa or in the sub-Saharan African context, they are also persecuted in Nepal and Vietnam and all over the show, and in Indonesia. There's some seriously endangered rhino species. They're much more endangered than the black rhinos that we have here in sub-Saharan Africa. And they're also under pressure. It's, I want to give you another statistic. When they did the aerial census for elephants in Mozambique a few years ago, going back about 10 years now, is that how long it is? Approximately 7 to 10 years ago.
Okay.
48% of all the elephants that they counted were carcasses in Mozambique. Mozambique is over there. I can pretty much see it from our viewing deck. At the rate of exploitation, 96 elephants were dying in sub-Saharan Africa a day. That's IUCN figures, not mine. Okay, if that problem moved across the border, Kruger Park is 6 kilometers wide, its widest point. If that problem moved across our border, we would have had 200 and something days of elephants left in the Kruger National Park. This is not just a rhino problem. The rhinos have brought the poaching problem into the public arena. For some reason, you can't, well, I know some of the reasons, but they pull your water pipes out and bash your crocs around. But you can't generate much sympathy for an elephant. It's really tough to generate sympathy for an abalone, for example, unless you have a house on the coast and you don't like the people running in front of your house and whatever. How do you generate, why is it now suddenly that the rhinos have generated so much sympathy globally and internally? And we must capitalize on that. We must protect those rhinos. We must find what are the root causes. We must address those root causes, because I promise you, when the rhinos are gone, something else is going to go.